Welcome to the Moon Magic Tarot channel. Thank you so much for joining me. In today's readings, we are asking your future self for guidance and advice on how to heal and move beyond childhood wounds and childhood experiences that were not okay for you. These are readings that many people have actually contacted me and asked for, which is why we are doing them. And I am seeing your cards today already. We're picking 3 cards from the pack to help to guide you in, and also a rune and a charm for each. So this is the first, this is the second I'm seeing, and this is the third. Okay. So reading number 1, you have 10 of Angels, Surrender. That's an interesting card. Okay. Reading number 2, Queen of Angels, Visionary. I don't know if you can hear that, whether the microphone will pick it up, but you know, a huge flock of crows has just come into my garden, backs onto a field, and huge flock of crows just came in as we were drawing these cards, and they were just calling and calling and calling. I don't know if the microphone picked it up or not, but actually what I'm hearing is we're going to use the Crow Tarot in the readings. Crows, of course, fly between the worlds. They journey between the worlds, and they are in tribal ways, shamanic ways, in the ways of the land, and they are understood as great seers and great healers because they can journey between the worlds. They're very connected to repair and healing because they are connected to soul loss, which of course is, you know, what happens when we experience trauma and challenge. It's like a little piece of our soul gets damaged or leaves, and you know, sometimes I'm very aware I haven't turned over card number 3 yet, but those crows were so powerful just coming in. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about these things in the readings if it's relevant. Let's get to the task in hand. My apologies. We also, for reading number 3, have the High Priestess, Intuition. Okay, so those are our 3 cards, and we're going to draw runes and charms. Yeah, I'm sorry, my divergence, but yeah, the crows just came through so strongly there, and just such a healing magic to be able to kind of, yeah, in shamanic terms, retrieve those pieces of the soul that we lost and bring them back to us, so we find wholeness, healing, completion. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3 runes, which I will turn over in a moment, and charms 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so reading number 1, 10 of Angels, Surrender. We have the Eye of Horus, and we also have the rune of Separation. Reading number 2, we have the rune of the Self, Queen of Angels, Visionary, and we have the charm of the Anchor. Reading number 3, we have the card of the High Priestess. We have the Flamingo, the charm of the Flamingo, and the rune of Movement. Wow, I am really looking forward to these readings. It's a very deep and powerful subject, but you know, Super Souls, way to go for stepping up and asking for them. So those of you who did. Yeah, I'm going to leave the camera running for a few moments just to help to give you time to guide yourself in. You might find that more than one reading is speaking to you. I'll put the timestamps in the information box and the comments for phone users, and I will yeah, if you need to press the pause button, if you need longer for that guidance, then just press the pause button, and I will see you in the readings, Super Souls. Welcome, reading number 1. So you have been guided in by the card of the Ten of Angels, Surrender. You have the Eye of Horus and you have the rune of separation. I'm going to place this card up here and we're going to go straight into the Crow Tarot and see what we are shown. So we are asking your future self for guidance and advice how to overcome and heal and move beyond the impact of childhood difficulties, childhood wounds, experiences, traumas. Let's see what we are shown. Okay. Right. First of all, you have the card of the Tower. Okay. You then have the Ten of Swords. Do you know the crows I've started calling again? Really interesting. As soon as we've started this reading. Okay. We have the Seven of Swords. We have the Six of Swords. We have the Ten of Pentacles. Excellent. Excellent. We then have, lovely, we have the Seven of Wands. And we have the Eight of Wands. Okay. So, what I'm seeing in your reading so far, reading number 1, what your higher self is saying here is there's something about rebuilding. I kind of want to say rebuilding from the rubble. Okay, capitalizing on some of the life skills that you have learned. It's almost like, I think the reason we have the card of the Ten of Angels, Surrender. Now they're very, very clear here. This Eye of Horus. There's a very clear message here coming through from your future self. And your future self is saying, you know, as are your spirit team actually, we're not suggesting, a little ash from my smudge stick that I cleansed earlier on that card. Really interesting ashes sitting there on this card. Now, your future self is, and certainly your team are also saying, your spirit team is saying, they are not suggesting even remotely that something that happened to you was okay. But what they are saying is that part of your healing process is also to recognize and to honor the skills that you personally learned through that situation. They're also asking you to cut some cords here in some way, shape or form. There is a need to release something. So the surrender isn't surrendering to something that happened. It's not about surrendering your sense of self in any way, shape or form. It's actually, it's almost like you're being advised to accept it. It's like that, it's the wisdom prayer, isn't it? I think that it goes along the lines of, you know, that we recognize the things that we can change and we accept the things that we can't, and that we ask for the wisdom to know the difference. There's something about knowing that you can't change something that has happened, but you can take charge of your life right now. What we are being shown here, and this is really, really important, I think, really, and I'm really going to honor your, I want to honor your journey. Because what I feel here is that you really did have to build from the rubble. And they're really asking you to honor that, to validate the fact that you actually had to build from the rubble. You had to build from something that was just, it just broke down. Something in your childhood happened that literally there was a significant breakdown. whether it was a breakdown in communications or a breakdown in the world of your grown-ups. Some of you may have had a significant grown-up who literally did have a breakdown. They may have been hospitalized, they may have had some kind of mental health challenges that caused quite a lot of trauma and difficulty in your world. Indeed, I would also say that perhaps if you have grown up in a world with someone who had significant mental health challenges of their own, not only were they unavailable to you from an emotional perspective, they weren't available to give you the attention, the nurture, the care that was needed, that should naturally be given to every child. But I think you almost got stabbed in the back along the way. You know, when we have somebody who has something, you know, a really challenging sort of psychological disorder of some sort. For anyone who's new to my channel, I should also just say, you know, I worked as an accredited counsellor, a psychotherapist for over 28 years. My calling, I've read cards and runes all my life, and my calling is very much to use and teach people as well how to use cards and runes and those spiritual tools that are available to us for healing, and to combine that with knowledge and awareness so that we can, and I put a lot of resources into the world for free, so I'll put all the relevant links to everything that might be helpful to you in the information box and the comments. But let's just go back to what we're being shown here. So I think that you had a significant parent, sibling, somebody within your family with a really, really big mental health problem. It may not even have been actually ever validated or acknowledged. But the outcome was that you literally have had to pick yourself up out of the rubble. You had to almost like construct your own sense of self. You had to construct, because you didn't get the guidance, the support, the care, the acknowledgement. I mean, the way that we learn, you know, in a perfect world, and many people, let's face it, have not had a perfect world, but, you know, and I am sorry that that has happened. But you literally had to, almost like in a standalone way, work out how to navigate your world, almost as though you did it in isolation. There was no guidance, there was no parental presence that gave you the clarity, the structure, the firmness, the foundation that you could grow on, build upon, push the boundaries and safely know where you stood, because I think boundaries were all over the place. I think that for many of you, I mean, there will have been some kind of mental health diagnosis of somebody. For others, not at all. I think there was never a diagnosis, but that person ultimately ran riot. And almost as if you were left feeling constantly, I mean, really relentlessly, as if you were in the wrong. Absolutely, and relentless is the right word. Really relentlessly as if you were in the wrong. You've had to gather your resources, literally, you've had to gather your resources and constantly make choices and decisions for yourself. Sort of, I mean, you've managed to ride the waves. I've really got to take my hat off to you, really. Everything that happened, you've done well for yourselves despite everything. What I do see is that one of the challenges that I think it faces for you is actually the complexity of what it means to be in relationship with people, especially when there is an element of competitiveness, because, you know, healthy competitiveness is great because it's really inspirational and we can support each other, we can do teamwork. But I feel like there was no capacity for teamwork. There was no team in your world when you were little. And I do think that the relentlessness was really not just the event or the challenge of having somebody who had, I think, genuinely challenging behaviour around you, but it's the ongoing relentlessness of that, which ultimately was deemed the norm in your household. is what I'm really saying. Now, you have had to pick yourself up and gather yourself together on many, many occasions. Literally pick yourself up off the ground. Remarkably, you've ridden the waves and you've flown out of that situation. Again, some of you, I think, will have left the nest at the earliest possible date. You know, when you just leave home and you get the hell out of there. Some of you, I think, genuinely did that. I think you got out at the earliest possible time, and you have very successfully made a world for yourself, which has a degree of security in it. Okay, but that security is not about relationships. It's more to do with stuff. Now, interestingly enough, your future self and the guidance from your future self, and we're going to draw a lot more cards and runes here. Your future self is saying, look, you picked yourself up time and again. You're amazing. Okay, you managed to separate to the best of your ability. Okay, now it's time to really separate from some of the fears around trust. Now, I know that's a biggie, so I'm really holding that space for you. I really know that's a biggie, but there's something about learning step by step how to be in more, rather than relationships that are codependent, where somebody heavily leans on you, relies on you, and basically uses you as I don't know, in not nice ways. It's, you've had the skills to pick yourself up and to move beyond a situation. You did it physically, okay? There's, I'm guessing, still some underlying emotional scars. Some, you know, if we think about it, you know, physical scars will heal. It's the emotional ones that remain. It's why I have a massive online library, which is a completely free resource. And it's all about emotions and the psychology of emotions. And that's why I wrote a book about emotions too. But that's by the by. Those resources are there for you. Access them at any time you need. This reading, your future self is saying, the key to healing and moving into a new chapter, moving beyond, is to firstly recognize, and this is so big, it's such a huge message. I feel actually quite emotional saying it, but I'm loud and clear. You didn't do anything wrong. It was not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. I feel really emotional, and I've got all the hairs on my body are standing on end. I just feel like, you know, when you just get a wave of stuff that comes through you. It's time to release. That's the separation here for you. Reading number 1. It is time for you to release any aspect of you, any teensy-wincy aspect of you that still somehow holds yourself responsible. You were made to feel it, but it was not your fault. You did nothing wrong at all. And it's really clear. And your future self is saying, look, you're amazing. You picked yourself up time and again. You flew out of there. You've actually built a sense of yourself away from this situation. And now it is time to release any aspect of self-doubt. Everything is seen and known. It is not for you to hold on to any need for retribution, because that will be delivered elsewhere. And whatever problems people in your family had, it's their problem, and they will be accountable for that in their own way, and it's not for you to deliver that. Your future self is saying your future is about soaring high, having the world that you want, bringing fertility into your life. Look at these amazing sunflowers. The 8 of Wands surging forwards, having the energy to embrace life, and the poppies, which of course are all about loss and grieving and letting go. But the sunflowers are about the source of new life, new beginnings. It's learning to step by step collaborate with other people. It's like doing the bit of discovery about people, that there are actually decent people in the world, that they're not all bad. And that feeling that somehow you messed up, you were made to feel so bad that it's almost like you could be yourself in isolation, but you could never fully be yourself around others. Almost as if they would, do you know, I want to say, as if they would take away a piece of your very identity. You know, when we talk about identity theft, you know, as a, obviously when people steal your credit cards or scam you or something like that, I think about, as a therapist, and I've talked about this with many people in my counselling room, in the days when I was working totally full-time at that stuff, I have talked about identity theft, but I've talked about it in terms of somebody who is so dominating that you cannot be you, and they actively remove and systematically target you, sometimes that overtly and sometimes below, in a way that's really below the belt, in ways that limit you from being able to have your own identity. Your very sense of self is targeted, is eroded by somebody whose needs are so great, and they go about getting their needs met in so many underhanded, not nice, aggressive, whether it's overtly aggressive or passively aggressive ways. And this is classic of the kind of scenarios that I'm talking about and I'm seeing here. Your future self is saying, you have demonstrated already that you have an extraordinary level of skill to pick yourself up and build something. It's now time to apply those skills, those very same skills, little by little, to a vision of the future where you can truly soar in your own right. Okay, so there's going to be something to do here around connecting with people and developing those life skills that allow you to slowly but surely have life and embrace life. Understand that there are people out there that are okay. I'm going to put these cards at either end of the reading. It feels quite important to do this. And we're going to draw more cards to sit in the middle right now. Okay, I think what we're going to do is draw some inner child cards. May we please ask for guidance, further help, advice for reading number 1. See this card. Okay. Right, yes, 6 of Swords. You can seriously do this, and this is like with a little help from your friends. I feel like you probably are perhaps the kind of person that never accepts help from anybody. You've developed the ability to be efficiently good at managing everything on your own, and it's time for that to stop. This is all for one, one for all. It's like finding your team. 8 of Wands. Look at this. I mean, just look at this. 6 of Swords, 8 of Wands. Look at the collaboration coming in here. All for one, one for all. This is absolutely beautiful. 2 of Hearts. Oh, and 7 of Wands. Look at the energy of this emergence and of this beautiful child being reborn. What your future self is saying to you is, now you either already have some people around you who genuinely wish to support you, but you may be finding it hard to accept that support, or you are being invited to take step-by-step moves forwards to find your own tribe. And don't be overwhelmed by disappointment if you meet people who don't resonate with you. It's okay for you, you see, to be discerning. You were never allowed to make choices. There were no choices. You lived constantly in a place where you were cornered, but it was not your fault. And so this, your healing journey, your future self is saying the healing journey for you is about the discovery that not everybody is bad, and you may well in your adult lives have come across people who were. And I really have to acknowledge that. When you live in an environment like this, I think we develop blind spots, because it's almost as though that was the norm for us. And even though we know it wasn't okay and we didn't enjoy it, it's like our tolerance level. Like somebody that had a really healthy, happy childhood, if they enter a relationship or a friendship or anything, and somebody behaves like a bit of a shit, at the first sign of that, they're like, well, I'm out of here. I'm not keeping that friendship going. Whereas you're probably going back and trying to fix it, because it taps into the child in you that constantly felt as though it was your fault and that you had to go back and it was your fault and that you should put it right. And so you go back and you get disappointed, and then you go back and you try again and you try again. And it's like there's this pattern that emerged. This is now time for you to invest in you and invest in the tribe that will support you. Now, I think that for a lot of you, there are people around you who want to support you, but you've been fearful about letting them in. You know, teamwork is scary if we've lived with people whose entire investment is in getting what they need when they want it, and in, you know, slaughtering anyone who gets in the way. But it's time to shift that. It's time to shift that. And the healing comes here. I love that we have the Two of Hearts and then the Seven of Wands, this beautiful child emerging as a butterfly, as a fairy. It's like innocence returns. It's not innocence with naivety. It's innocence in terms of refinding trust. The key to refinding trust is gradually, little by little, allowing yourself to receive, knowing that you can test the waters, knowing that you can fly away and you have the right to. You don't have to feel bad if you exit something. You can actually meet people and think, do you know what, they're really nice, but they're just not my type. You know, don't quite resonate with me. It doesn't have to be a crisis for you to say no. It's one of the big learning curves your future self is saying. It doesn't have to be a crisis to say no. You can just say no. Don't really feel like that. Not really working for me. You don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to justify yourself. That's the kind of messages that are coming through. It's testing the waters with people, allowing yourself to receive and to become a part of a team. Allowing yourself to do that. And from within that, we are going to get a significant degree of healing. I think it's going to happen little by little, but you're going to need to learn that you can collaborate. There are people who wish to support you, to love you, to be with you, 100% behind you. And I think I can confidently say that this community here on YouTube, because you guys are absolutely amazing, this community on YouTube is part of a bigger tribe of people who operate in that way. I can't reply to all your comments. There are too many, and I wouldn't have time to do all the readings, so it would defeat the object. But I do go through, I read them. I can't reply to you all, but I am blown away by how amazing you all are. And it is such a privilege to connect with people who are doing this level of soul work, this level of growth and healing in the world, because when we heal ourselves, we don't repeat the pattern and pass it on to future generations. And that's amazing. You know, your future self is really honouring the pathway forwards here. Little by little, take it steady. You can just say no because you feel like it, okay? Yeah, not my type. Super nice person, just not my bag. You don't have to people please. You don't have to get it right. And it doesn't have to be a crisis for you to say no. You know, there's a big amount of additional growth and learning here. You're extremely good, but you're at doing things. Your future self has said, look, you're amazing. You picked up time and again. Look how far you've got. And now it's time for you to carry that into the world more openly. Be proud of who you are. Celebrate who you are. Take your time to find your tribe, and you will be welcomed. Take it step by step. Discover if something doesn't feel right. Just say, no, that's not my bag. Tried it on for size. It's not for me. You move on. You are going to emerge here. For those of you who have really struggled potentially to find a loving relationship, an intimate relationship, we're seeing healing here, 2 of Hearts. And actually that will come through the connection with a bigger tribe of people, finding your tribe, finding people to connect with, finding your community, what I would call the family you choose as opposed to the family you're born to. You know, and they're very different. And sometimes we can be lucky enough to have both. But for some people, that's a major challenge. But actually, you can find the family you choose. And I do think for many of you, there are people out there willing to immediately, who want to give to you, but you struggle to allow yourself. You're always still trying to give more than everybody else, like trying to prove yourself because you feel you have to. You don't need to. This is all for one and one for all, and in more ways than one. I mean, my goodness me, this could not be more obvious. But it's within that connection of belonging, of growth, of healing, of knowing that you are loved, valued, cherished as part of a team. And that experience of being part of a team, that your future self is saying, that is also where you are actually going to. For those of you who've struggled with intimacy, that's where you're going to heal in a different way and then be able to find that love and that connection in intimacy as well. The outcome of this is magical because you will become discerning, clear, strong, direct, which you already are in many, many ways. But you can do it with a renewed trust in people, which is just delightful. Beautiful reading number 1. The separation here, everything is seen and known. The separation here is letting go of any aspect of self-criticism, doubt, and moving to a place where little by little you learn that you can give. It's not that you can give less, you can give whatever you want to give, but you give with discernment, and it doesn't have to be a crisis to say no, and that there are people who want to support you. And if they are not yet in your world, then you can go out and find them and literally just test the waters. Try something on for size, go to a group. If it works and it fits, that's yay. And if it's not, oh, that's not for me, I'll find another. And it's about giving yourself permission to try these different options, test the waters, and slowly but surely build that space of potential where you discover there are a ton of people out there. Just look at the comments in this channel and you will discover that there are a ton of extraordinary people, amazing people who are working through this level of stuff. I mean, you guys genuinely are inspirational. Reading number 1, I don't feel I need to draw any more cards. I am deeply privileged to read for you. I can see how epic and huge and relentless was the word that really came that this was, and the huge impact on you. If you are really feel that it's too challenging to even test out the waters with social groups, then consider joining some form of therapy group or support group with other people, like-minded souls who've also experienced difficulty and therefore understand the nature of this deep level of stuff. But you are going to find your healing through a connection to a group of people who kind of become, it's your soul family in some way, your tribe. And it's also, as I said, where you will find that connection and intimacy and rebuild trust as well. Reading number 1, thank you so much for joining me. If you would like to get notification of any of my readings, if you subscribe and hit the bell icon as well, they should come into your stream. I post a ton of readings all of the time, lots of these spontaneous ones in answer to questions. The questions today were raised by many people getting in touch and saying, look, could we do some readings around this subject? And I do put a ton of resources into the world. Rather than go over and over them, I will just put all the links in the information box and the comments for phone users. Do access them. You know, the library that I have is a completely free resource. Just access whatever is good for you. But it is time to step into a space where you allow yourself to receive and be a part of something that can be healthy and support you as much as you support, and in a really beautiful, balanced and healthy way. Reading number 1, tons and tons of love. Thank you for joining me. Thank you to all of you who give back through the super thanks in the comments. It really does help to support the channel. And thank you to those of you who give in an ongoing way on Patreon. That does support the library as well. It really is part of the big network of stuff that supports running a big website. And truly also thank you. And in giving back to you guys on Patreon, I will be posting another tutorial in tarot reading for you soon. Just my way of saying thank you to all of you for that ongoing support. Super souls, tons and tons of love. Welcome, reading number 2. You have been guided in by the rune of the self, the anchor, and the Queen of Angels, visionary. Pretty amazing start to your reading. Let's draw from the Crow Tarot straight away. Ooh, there's your first card, and second, and third, and oh, that's way too many, I think, but I do see you, and you, and you. And you too. Okay, let's see what we are shown. So you have the Page of Pentacles. We're very specifically in these readings asking your future self, and your team as well, of course, your spirit team, how to heal, you know, advice and guidance, how to heal and move beyond, you know, childhood wounds and childhood experiences that may be holding you back. We have the Ten of Wands. We have the Page of Cups. We have the Nine of Pentacles. We have the Hanged Man. Oops, put that the right way up. We have the Two of Swords. Okay, we have the Seven of Cups, and we have the card of Justice. Well, there is a very, very clear message for you. There really, really is. Okay. Already within these cards, reading number 2. So let's just say it quite boldly, exactly as I'm seeing it. Right, you need to learn to invest in yourself and take an absolute ownership of what is yours, your right and entitlement to have, to hold and to own, and stop giving to the wrong people. It's just, and I apologize for being so incredibly forceful about it. You're needing to develop your vision of people. Your future self is saying to you the way to move beyond the legacy. That's what's coming through here. The way to move beyond the legacy of the past is to stop carrying the burdens of others and to look after yourself. And to do that, there's a need to clearly see people for who they are. It's like I'm seeing you being conflicted almost between, you know, I'm trying to think of an example, but I think people easily put upon you. Or people easily come along with a bit of a sob story, or they make you feel like they're really hard done by, and you naturally give. You're a natural giver. You're so generous, but you end up carrying the burdens of everybody else. It's like literally, you know, oh, you know, we'll ask you because we know you'll do it for us. I don't have to worry about this because you'll do it. It's like, it literally is. You're being asked to develop the vision, the sight. Listen with your heart. And the rune of self and the anchor point here. Now, the Rune of Self actually sort of says, my favourite rune book is by Ralph Blum, or Bloom, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, and I apologise, Mr. Ralph, if I am not pronouncing it correctly, but it is, for me, it's the real amazing definitions of runes book. And what he actually says is, with the Rune of Self, I always feel it's like we arrive at a place where we recognise that it's like he says, the patient on the operating table is yourself. It's that recognition that you can't keep fixing other people without you first need to fix yourself, and then you'll have an abundance to give to everybody. But you need to look after yourself. Your future self is saying to you, the way for you to really heal and move beyond childhood wounds in the here and now is to develop your ability to see people for who they actually are. Really, really see them for who they are. Not to be dragged into those sort of stories that say, you know, I really need your help. And that doesn't make you a bad person. There will be people that you will want to support, but it's developing the ability to be discerning between the two. It's the drains and radiators scenario. You know, some people are drains, some people are radiators. It's interesting because the person who introduced me to that saying, as it were, drains and radiators, was quite honestly the biggest drain I've ever met. I don't think I've met anybody who drained others more. You know, an absolute energy vampire, constant drama, constant crisis, you know, absolute drain. When two radiators get together, life is just fabulous. But when a radiator gets with a drain, oh, it's just constant. You're definitely seen as somebody, Page of Pentacles, Page of Cups, you're seen as somebody who has a lot of energy and a lot to give. And you're seen by people as somebody who has done well for themselves. Whether you have or haven't, interestingly enough, people see you as someone who has a lot. Now, you have worked your socks off to get to where you are, and that I can see really, really clearly. But there's always this underlying conflict going on between having resources and keeping them for yourself or sharing them, you know, and I think you get quite burdened by that. You know, it's almost like if you were to win £100 on a lottery and then you would just give it all away straight away. And that's great to give some of it away, but you need to look after you as well. Things need to be in balance. You need to be giving and receiving in equal amounts. It's really, really clear here. And also learning emotionally not to carry the burdens of others. I'm actually going to do something here. I'm going to press the pause button. It won't affect the video, but I'm going to get something because I want to show you a lovely little exercise that can be done to really look at what you're carrying for other people. So bear with me. So here we have a little exercise. So I will just say, if you're new to my channel, I worked as a counsellor and a psychotherapist for over 28 years. My calling is about really connecting all of that knowledge and information into the delivery of that within spiritual pathways, because I've read cards and runes all my life. So this is something that someone taught me. It's a great thing. You don't have to have stuff like this. You could have a bowl or a bag or a cup or anything. You can walk out in nature and just pick up twigs, shells, leaves, anything. But walk around and think about all the different things you're carrying. And each time you think of something you're carrying, you put something into your bowl. So maybe there's something that you're worried, all the things that you're worrying about, the burdens, that's the things that are burdening you. Every time you think of something, like I said, you could walk through the woods, you can pick up acorns, you can pick up twigs, you can pick up leaves, you can pick up stones, you can pick up shells, you can pick up anything and everything. You can find just a bag of objects like this. And then when you've got them all in your, when you've come to the end of all the things that are burdening you, you go away and you sit down and you create a little circle for you to sit in. And as you sit there, you take each one out and you think, right, is this actually my responsibility to carry? Can I do anything about this? Will my investment in this be, how much energy will I be expending? Is it mine to carry? Is it my burden? Or do I actually need to step back and let that person step up and grow into themselves enough to find ways of dealing with that? If it's not your responsibility, you take it out of your basket and you put it somewhere else. I'm going to remove it out of the sight of our reading. And you go through everything. Each situation, is this mine to carry? Is it my responsibility? If it's not, it goes out. You know, is this bit mine? Sometimes you might find there are things that are partly yours and partly not. You're owning your part of it, but not anybody else's. You're literally saying, I will take responsibility for me and the stuff in my world, but nothing that doesn't belong to me. And you move all these things out of your basket. And do you know what? I tell you, I can almost guarantee, because you are people who carry a lot, if you systematically go through this, you'll probably end up with just a few little pieces left. And suddenly your burden basket has a lot less in it. And you're very clear about what is your responsibility and what isn't. Okay? So it's a really interesting way of doing something, and physically looking at something and physically putting stuff to one side. You could also write down all the things that are feeling like a burden, like a list. Cut them into slices, put them into your basket, take them out one by one. If they're not yours, you can throw them away or bin them or burn them or whatever you want, but you're left with the ones that are. Your future self is saying to you, it's almost like the key to your liberation from childhood wounds in terms of stuff that you can actually do in the here and now, is really truly to honor yourself, to fuel yourself and release the burdens that you are carrying for others. It's really clear. This is, I know it's very cliche to say that the more we look after ourselves, the more we have to give to others. But it's true. Look at all these cups. They're all full up with everything. Well, actually, if those cups are full, because you've got a jug of water and you keep topping yourself up and you've got plenty to give, then you can go around filling everybody else's cups up. That's completely fine. But it's not okay if your cups are full of everybody else's stuff and belongings and there's no room for you. Okay, and this card is really saying, the 7 here is a choice card. There are lots of choices available to you. Choose what to carry and what not to carry. That is what your future self is saying. It's about developing the vision to see clearly what is yours and what is not. We have the Hanged Man really confirming that. To know that you don't have to be conflicted about what to give and what not to give. And to choose through seeing. It's very interesting, these 2 crows here. We have the 2 of Swords and we have the Justice card with the Balance here. Both are wearing blindfolds. It's really important to learn to see clearly what is yours to carry and what isn't. Not to be drawn into other people's conflicts and dramas. Again, because you are so generous, and you're generous of yourself. It's not just stuff. You're generous of your time, of your support. You're the person everybody comes to when they need to cry on someone's shoulder or when they've got a crisis, But truly, honestly, are they there for you? It's great if they are, because then you've got 2 radiators. But if they're not, then really think about, is this person, however real their circumstances seem to be, and it's not saying they're not real, but is it your responsibility to carry this? Will it actually burden you? That's not okay. So this is all about bringing you back into balance, allowing you to be able to be in charge of yourself, your resources, your choices, and then to have an abundance to give. This is everything here, and developing that vision. It's the vision and the awareness that gives you the strength. You can anchor yourself in the reality of who people are, and you don't have to get into conflict with them. There's no need for conflict. All you do is actually simply develop your discernment. If somebody is putting upon you, constantly knocking on your door, you start to establish some boundaries. You just actually, you sort of we can firm things up. If you've got somebody in your life that you still feel you wish to give to, but you want to limit that giving, then start to put some timings on it. You just say, oh, you know, very happy to see you and to kind of hear about this. Let's meet at, you know, 4:30 on Tuesday, knowing full well when you get there, you can say to them, right, it's so lovely to see you. I need to be out of here by 5:30 because I'm going on to do something else. I've got an appointment. You time things so there is a boundary point that means that that time that you're choosing to give is actually it's actually sort of, it's not endless. You know, it's all about seeing people and choosing how much you give, who to, and how and when. Because it doesn't mean you want to withdraw all your support, but it's very different to go and just have somebody rock up and walk through your door, knock on your door at any time of the day or night, versus actually saying to somebody, oh, it'd be lovely to catch up with you, being proactive. Here, lovely to see you, really nice to hear how you're getting on, let's meet, and then you put time boundaries around it so you can give, but you're giving what you choose to give. So this is the theme, very much the theme that's coming through from your future self, saying really time for you to approach boundaries and giving from a very different perspective, with a great deal of thought, and listen to your heart, because your heart will tell you when you're giving to somebody whether you feel drained, if you come away from a conversation feeling exhausted, or whether you come away from a conversation feeling really positive. Then you'll know whether somebody is using your support to move their lives on genuinely, or whether they're using your support to sort of stand still and just come and get more and more and more. Okay, because some people are a bit of a bottomless pit, and when that happens, like a bucket with a hole in it, the more you give to them, the more they need. When that happens, it's actually an indication that they're not really trying to heal themselves. They're actually engaging in relationships with people who are givers, because it helps them to stand still better rather than to move forwards themselves, if that makes sense. Reading number 2. So let's move your cards out here. I'm going to put this here, and we're going to draw some more cards. Okay, I feel this needs to be in the center because it's all about your choices. Maybe we'll, all about your choices. And this is all about bringing things into balance through having that vision, that insight, that awareness, that knowledge, the listening to yourself if you feel drained or whether you feel great. Very interesting, I would say, I used to, in my therapeutic practice, so many people used to say to me, I don't know how you do your job, you must find it so draining. It's not draining. It doesn't matter what someone has been through. The point is, by the time they walk through my door, well, obviously I don't have that full-time practice anymore, but by the time they walk through my door, they are taking full responsibility for themselves, irrespective of what has happened to them in the past. It's amazing, it's inspiring, it's fantastic. And that whatever stuff you have to deal with, they are taking responsibility for creating the change in their world now, even if it was just not their fault at all. And actually, that is inspirational, it's amazing. So it's not draining. When you give to somebody who's honouring that pathway for themselves, it feels really good. But if you give to somebody, and I've certainly met a few bottomless pits in my personal life, in my own world, because we come across people who want and see, again, if you have skills in certain ways, they'll see you as somebody who might be able to give to them, who are taking inappropriately. It's that drains and radiators. So let's draw more cards and see, what does your future self show for reading number 2? What are we shown here? How is this going to pan out? What kind of a future are we seeing for reading number 2 in developing these boundaries, these greater capacity for discernment, for sight, for seeing? Oh, wow. 2 of Hearts, balance in relationships, mutual giving and receiving. Shown that very clearly for you. 4 of Hearts. Now this is interesting. There'll be some separation as well around you. And this is interesting because I think when you do start to say no to people who take a lot, Yeah, you do start to say no to people who take a lot. It can feel really sad because we have to acknowledge the reality of people. But my goodness me, you're going to thrive because of this. 7 of Hearts, so 2 of Hearts, 4 of Hearts. I'll say a little bit more about this in just a minute. 7 of Hearts, Ace of Crystal. Oh, look, Ace and the 10. I mean, reading number 2, this is fab. The outcome of this is amazing. So what I will say to you is, and in the resources that I personally put into the world, I have a big free library. I'll put all the links to everything that I do that's available to support emotional and psychological growth. I'll put all the links in the information box and the comments. In my library, in the Psychology of Emotion pages of the library, there is 2 audios. One is called The Wobble of Change and the other is called the Sadness of Moving Forwards. Because actually coming into balance will feel really, really good. What we're being shown here is it will also bring up a little bit of sadness about the relationships and things that haven't worked out. But that's part of the process of emergence, because you'll go, when you start to get discerning, there will be some relationships that you probably do leave behind, letting go of some of the drains and only keeping the radiators. So, but it's appropriate for you to process this. It's part of the discernment. It's part of learning to listen to the truth of who people really are. Remain anchored and grounded and see. Let your heart guide you. 7 of Hearts, beautiful. This is your emergence. Ace of Crystals, massive new beginnings. So much energy available to you. And the 10 of Crystals, I mean, this is Christmas. This is Christmas Eve. It's like every stocking is being filled. The gifts that will come to you because your energy is genuinely abundant. I mean, my goodness me, when you are able to choose where you invest your energy and invest it in yourself so that you then have a ton to give to others, your world is just going to open up and so much is going to come to you. It's just a magical world that you could not have believed was possible will come to you in terms of just connections, energy, abundance, resources, the stuff that you have dreamed of, that you have continually given away. This is seriously about opening yourself to receive, but not just opening yourself to receive. It's opening yourself to receive and allowing yourself not to give away to the wrong people inappropriately. Reading number 2, this is actually very, very clear, and this is beautiful. And yes, there's sadness when we have to acknowledge some of the people that we've brought into our lives are possibly not there with the greatest of agendas. But we also can observe them with compassion and know that it's not our responsibility, back to this, to carry their burdens or to carry things for them. And interestingly enough, if you start to live and really thrive in your own abundance, you will be inspirational to others to do the same. And people who have formerly lent on you far too heavily will have greater space to step up into their own self-responsibility because they haven't got you to fall back on. And I know that's kind of crazy because we tend givers, and I have been an overgiver, truly. I really have. In a big chunk of my life I was an overgiver. But when we are giving to somebody, it's like bailing somebody out means they never have to take responsibility for themselves. Okay, and this is really about learning not to do that and developing those skills. And that's what your future self is talking to you about. And that is what you can do in the here and now to work at, so that actually your life significantly will like burst forth. It really is. Your energy then belongs to you. Your energy belongs to you. It's like you become a rainbow of energy with abundance just coming right back at you. It's beautiful, beautiful, really is. Reading number 2. Super souls, thank you so much for joining me. I feel this reading is complete for you at this moment in time. Do check out all of the stuff I put into the world that may be helpful. This is a timeless reading, and whenever you come to it, I am building a timeless readings playlist. There are a ton of readings that you can access that answer very specific questions like, can I trust this person? Is this a yes or a no decision? So if you have any wobbles, there just aren't loads of resources available, whether it's the library, this channel, all kinds of stuff. So do check those out, and I will put all the links there for you. And if you'd like to get notification as soon as I post any new readings, I do post every Sunday with weekly guidance too. If you subscribe, press the little bell icon, they should come into your stream. I am just sending you all the love in the world. You know, this reading is so clear. Your future self is saying to you, you know, get grounded, anchor yourself, and seriously start to look after number one, and really work out what is yours to carry, what isn't. Develop that discernment, and yes, there'll be some letting go involved with it, with some people, that's for sure. But wow, the life and the world that comes to you when your energy and your resources are yours to choose what you do with, my goodness me, it's Christmas time. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Reading number 2, thank you so much for joining me. I am just sending you the biggest hug ever, and yeah, thank you so much as well. Yeah, thank you so much to those of you who are giving back through the super thanks in the comments. Really, you are so appreciated. And for those of you who support my work and the library through Patreon, thank you for that ongoing support. And I will be posting a new tutorial for you as a way of me giving a little bit back to you for that ongoing support. So thank you, amazing people, all of you. It is a privilege to be connected to you here in this beautiful community that we're building. Tons of love. Welcome to reading number 3. You have been guided to this reading by the High Priestess, Intuition, the Flamingo, and the Rune of Movement, the bettering of any situation, and something gathering momentum. So change, transformation. So in your reading, we are asking your future self how to heal and move forwards and beyond any childhood challenges and difficulties. And we are using the Crow Tarot first of all. Wow, your cards, reading number 3, are firing out at us already. I'm seeing this and this and this and both of those. Let's see what we are shown in these tarot cards to start with for you. So your first card is the card of the Tower. We then have the 8 of Wands. We then have the 6 of Wands. Beautiful card of victory. Okay. We have the 2 of Pentacles. We have the 4 of Cups. You have the card of Strength. This is really interesting. We're seeing this infinity symbol showing up here in more than one of your cards. 8 of, well, it's an, yeah, we have an 8 and an 8. We have the 3 of Wands. Gosh, Queen of Cups. You have a lot of wands. Now, reading number 3. Your future self is actually what I'm seeing here. Your future self is talking to you about the way in which, I actually want to say the way in which you learned to survive. Okay, that's what's really being shown here. Your future self is honouring that here in this reading. Now this reading is all about asking your future self how to heal, how to move beyond some aspect of childhood difficulty or trauma. The flamingo is an interesting energy because it's very much about joy, about being flamboyant, being yourself, being proud to be yourself. We have a card of victory here. I mean, look at this amazing crow. I am here. I have survived. I've achieved this. I've done this, surrounded by this incredible kind of energy. We have another card of real energy moving forwards, the Eight of Wands. The Three of Wands, a card of celebration, again moving forward, sitting under the Eight. Now this is for me interesting because what I'm seeing is firstly your higher self really validating that whatever took place in your childhood, I think you had to sort of you had to journey within. You may even have, when I say within, it's sort of within and without. Okay, I know that's going to sound like a contradiction, but please bear with me and I will try and be a bit clearer. It's like these sort of poppies and these sunflowers here. I feel that this is showing us, when I say journey within, in many ways, some of you may even have actually learned to disassociate. You may have in your dreams at night, you may have been able to fly out of situations of difficulty. You may have found that you could detach into a kind of a dream world in order to sort of kind of function amidst the chaos. I feel that's what I'm really seeing here. But you did actually, survival, I feel survival is a word I'm going to draw on actually here. And you've learned to survive. You've also learned, very quick reactions as well. You have very fast reactions to things. It means that I think because of those survival techniques that you developed, you're able to switch to a different mode really easily. Which means in a way that sometimes people don't always see exactly who you are. They don't necessarily see how you're feeling. You could actually be feeling a little bit melancholy, but probably nobody will know. They'll always see you with that smile on your face, that, oh, I'm fine kind of front, really. I think you developed very intricate skills to be able to navigate and survive an awful lot of chaos that was going on around you. That is really the best way, I think, of voicing this. Your future self is saying to you, though, that this reading is really acknowledging those skills that you developed, and it's almost about fine-tuning them so that you can use those skills, those survival skills, in ways that allow you to celebrate life and also to take care of yourself. I think these very fast reactions come from when we learn. It's like we're living in a world of chaos. I think that was happening for you, and what happens is that your alert system gets turned up. Your alert system gets turned up, and you become hyper vigilant a lot of the time. And the challenge is also to learn how to turn that down and to sometimes relax. I feel that you're someone who maybe doesn't always relax that much. There's probably always that underlying, almost that feeling that you have to be ready to react at any time because you've lived with a lack of safety. But it has given you very heightened skills of intuition. Now, the shift that your higher self is speaking about here is about learning to be able to celebrate yourself and be able to not to have to live through a front, but to celebrate in a real way who you really, really, really are. I'm actually going to draw some more cards here. It's very, very interesting reading. reading number 3. I'm going to place these here. We have this celebration card, which I'm actually going to place under the Tower. Very, very interesting. Let's bring some more cards into your reading, reading number 3. Let's see this. And this one. Okay. Okay. So your first card, you have the 5 of Swords coming in here. Then you have the Earth Child. Then you have the Seeker of Hearts. You have the Guardian Angel. I'm just going to move these over here so we can lay all these out. Okay, I really want these cards to all be in view here, which I think they can be if we're thoughtful about this. Okay, Seeker of Hearts. Okay, you have the Guardian Angel and you have the Wizard. Okay, these are beautiful cards, reading number 3. Really beautiful cards. A lot is being validated here, actually. A lot is being validated. And I'm really loving the energy of the flamingo and the movement forwards. I feel like for you, because of the kind of chaos that took place around you, a lack of, I mean, in many ways, it's really interesting. I'm feeling that some of you were like literally almost living in isolation. It's like living in a tower, literally. And for others, there was just chaos going on around you, and you had to, the tower was who you became, like an isolated tower in order to, that's part of the survival, with a very high alert system in case around any intrusion. For others, you literally were living virtually in isolation. I think it was like having to be a tower, because actually sometimes if people around you are really, really not connected to you and they're not present to you, you operate in an incredibly isolated place. Even if you're surrounded by people, if they don't connect to you, if they're not available to you, you literally become completely self-bound, because you have to be. It's the survival that we were being shown. Now, what your higher self is saying is, look, your survival skills are amazing, but they can also become the very thing that stops you from moving forwards. Okay, because if we learn to be completely self-contained, living almost in isolation because it feels really safe, we've got our high alert system, we're ready to react at any time, we are seen as capable, but also we're not really very connected to other people. Sometimes it's quite difficult to have that. It's quite difficult to find that balance. You know, the 5 of Swords here for me, this card here, we see somebody, I want to say no man is an island, okay? What I love in this card, and I'm really seeing this, is that there is this raft here. You know, no man is an island. There is somebody sitting on this rock here. And actually these 2 seals here, again, really lovely energy of the seals. Seals, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Seals are very slow on land, but they're very fast, they're very acrobatic, they're amazing in water. It's like they transform. When they're on land, they're actually very vulnerable because they can't move very fast. You guys are very fast moving in terms of your reactions, but seals are not very fast moving. They're actually very vulnerable. When they're in the water, they can duck and they can dive. It's like they occupy 2 different worlds, and that's actually now coming through really clearly with this infinity symbol here. They occupy two different worlds. It's what I was saying about actually disassociating or daydreaming or living in a dream world, or whatever you needed to do to detach, or indeed just to function, really. It is very much, it does feel like a reading of survival. You've learned the most incredible skills. You probably have the most extraordinary affinity also with nature. I think this card of the strength here is, you know, the crow she hasn't got the lion to be sedate or sedentary. She's tamed the lion through wisdom and connection and relationship, not through dominance or power. And I think you guys understand what it means to be on the end of perhaps dominance and power in an inappropriate way. Now, but this crow has learned, I think you have a an incredibly strong connection to otherworldly things, your spiritual pathway, to your guides, to your angels, to nature itself. When you walk out, you will talk to the land. You probably will have found safety in the world rather than safety at home with people. You've probably found safety in connection to nature. Your world has been quite different in that way to that of some people. But no man is an island, okay? And your future self is saying to you, look, the tower needs to fall, okay? Not in a negative way, but, you know, the tower needs to come down because no man is an island. And trust needs to be found again. This is like a rebirth, the earth child. Seeker of hearts. It's almost like you're being, I feel like your future self is saying, look, you can go on a quest here, and you can go on a quest to find, I want to say, your knight or knightess in shining armour. You know, there are people out there whose hearts are open. This person has an open door to the heart. Look at this. Seeker of hearts. It's like the Tin Man, really, but needing a heart. He's needing a heart. He's needing to learn how to feel, to overcome his fears and to feel. I love that we have your guardian angel. Now this is very interesting, and we have the wizard here too. So the guardian angel card, I think for me in this particular reading number 3, is really saying to you, look, we have walked beside you. We are aware of how much you have experienced. It's now time to learn something new. I do feel for some of you, it may be that it's, let's say, a quest. That really is what I want to say to you here. Your future self is saying it's time for you to go on a quest, like a magical journey. And what they're actually saying is, and I'm going to be giving quite clear information here actually through your future self. I think for some of you, because you have this incredible connection, it's a spiritual connection to the land, connection to your guides, to your angels, to otherworldly things. You have a connection spiritually that actually has come through a lack of connection with your human people, your grown-ups or the world around you. But no man is an island. And actually what they're now saying here, it's really beautiful, reading number 3, is that it's time for you to enter a quest, to become a seeker of hearts, to look for your knight or your knightess, or for the people that you would wish to be around, who can help you to repair your heart. It's to find your heart and to return to earth. When I said some of you will have learned to disassociate, this is a really fascinating reading, beautiful reading number 3. I am truly sorry that you went through the level of chaos and challenge that was brought into your world when you were little. Really, truly. I want to honour your survival skills. It's now time to integrate those skills into your adult life, because you actually have the capacity to be a bit of a magician, a bit of a wizard, really. You can learn those skills, you can sharpen those skills, you can learn to journey shamanically, because you've probably always journeyed. You've always journeyed to other worlds. You've always been able to escape in that way. It's now time to heighten those skills and learn those skills in some manner. You may even become, so you may enter some aspect of therapy, but probably quite an alternative route of therapy that allows you to unlock something of great transformation. It's like the very nature of the challenges, the survival things that you learned now hold the key to your recovery. Because I think you've always potentially travelled in your dreams. You may have astral travelled, you may have disassociated. This is a mechanism that you have within you. You can go out and speak to the trees. We have 2 trees here. You can speak to animals, you understand something of the magic of a different kind of connection. It's now that very connection that can enable you to embrace a life of genuine self-care for yourself, self-love. Queen of Cups here. A connection to your angels. You can learn to use that heightened communication and integrate it into the real world. So you, instead of using that capacity to journey, to travel as a method of survival, you use it as a method to connect to your guides, your angels, your spirit team in a very direct way, so that they can help you and show you exactly what you need to see when you need to see it, so you are protected. And it is about being able to sort of literally return to earth. I think I spoke right at the very beginning, a tiny little bit, when the crows came in, when I was drawing the cards. I really wondered if that would come into any of the readings. And it's come into this one, reading number 3. That when I talked about crows travelling between the worlds, when we experience some aspect of trauma, whether it's an actual event or it is what I would call an ongoing problem. When we live with something that is ongoing, it's really pervasive and it builds and builds and builds. We tend to think of trauma as a big event that happens, and I'm not saying big events didn't happen, but actually there's also there's a different form of trauma that's really pervasive, because it happens over a long period of time where we're constantly living in high alert. And when we experience something traumatic, in therapy we talk about people breaking down. In shamanic terms, we talk about soul loss. It's like a little piece of the soul evacuates the body, and we haven't lost that piece of soul. That little piece of soul has gone to another dimension, another place, for safekeeping. Okay, it's like a little part of the child leaves the body and evacuates. It's like somebody evacuating a burning building. This isn't happening, this isn't good, I'm going to evacuate. And then that little piece of soul stays away somewhere, but it's in safekeeping. It's, that's what happens. And sometimes it's really important for that soul to come back, for the heart to heal. You may want to embark on some aspect of shamanic learning, shamanic journeying. I can highly recommend, if you Google Sandra Ingerman. She's an extraordinary teacher. She's been teaching shamanic journeying and shamanism. She's an amazing woman, an amazing shaman, and she's been teaching for 30 years, for as long as I've been a psychotherapist. She's been a shamanic teacher, and she's written many books and does many courses. If you Google her, I will try and remember to put her name in the information box, along with all the other links and things that are there. Google her and check out some of her work. It's now time to use those skills that you use, those journeying skills, that heightened intuition, to actually navigate a pathway of healing and bring those little pieces of soul back down to earth. Shamanic healing is very much about this. So learning and embarking on some form of therapeutic type of work that actively embraces a therapeutic that therapeutic healing. Okay, so it's therapeutic healing, therapeutic work that connects to your spiritual pathway and connects to the skills you've learned. We have a card of success here. So this is going to come right. We're being shown not only your survival skills, how fast you learned to navigate, but also how fast you can learn to heal. Your future self is saying, you know, you can become you can repair your heart. It's like literally, it's as if the seeker of hearts, the little piece of soul that left, that's still healthy and waiting to come back, returns, bringing this piece of heart in. Some of you may even want to train therapeutically or train at, you know, in shamanic work. You may even already be embarking on that kind of work. And of course, part of that is about your own healing, because it always is. That's why we're drawn to these kinds of professions. I'm going to draw some runes, some extra runes for you guys. Right, our first runes that are showing themselves are the rune of initiation and the rune of the self. This totally backs up exactly what we've just been saying, what your future self is saying, because the rune of initiation is almost like it's a rite of passage, but it's deeply personal, and it often connects to your spiritual pathway, to a level of spiritual growth that many people will not actually get or understand, because they won't have had life circumstances, if I'm honest, that were sufficiently challenging to lead them into this direction. But you have, and here you have it, and it's the rune of the self. It's about completeness, coming together. We have the rune of fertility. This is fabulous. It's a fruit-bearing rune, completion of beginnings. So there is something that needs completing. You've already, I think many of you, started, well, to be honest, just the fact that you're even looking at these readings means you're already on that pathway, and this is about continuing that work, but shifting it, yeah, so that it's bringing you the open doorway that you need. This is the rune of openings, to have clarity of direction. This is really, really supporting you in moving forwards. It's like every skill you learned to react quickly, to move forwards, to connect to other dimensions. These are now the exact route that will enable you to learn not only how to heal yourself, but potentially how to offer and bring healing to others. And yeah, partnership, beautiful. This is about healing relationships. Primarily the relationship is with yourself. It's reaching that space of connectedness, but it is also what this reading is saying, and your future self is also saying, look, when you heal yourself, you will then be able to find your knight or your knightess, as it were, who will also connect with you, because you'll be resonating at that high vibrational level. I think as well for you guys, because of your experiences in partnership, it is sometimes quite, I won't say challenging, but it can be quite difficult to find someone who can meet you on your wavelength. Okay, because actually when you undergo this level of stuff, you see the world differently. I mean, you just do. High priestess, intuition. You see the world differently. This is now a time for you to own your skills and not be ashamed or afraid to be different. Take up your skills. Use them to develop not just your own healing, but literally a calling. Potentially, I think many of you will find yourselves called into some aspect of a healing profession. We have the rune of partnership because this is healing your connection to yourself. It's then healing your capacity to be within relationships with others, to call in that soul connection with somebody who actually has the same level of understanding, that higher vibrational level. Because I think for you to be really content and happy and flourish within a relationship, you actually do need somebody. You may already have met somebody as well. If you are in a relationship with someone which is a very healing mutual relationship and connection, then again you will probably both be embarking on this level of working together, healing together. But you're being invited by your future self to embrace the very things you did as a little person to survive, but to develop them, enhance them, and use them so that you literally excel and become your magnificent, full, whole self, your magical self, able to not only bring healing and direction to yourself, but to help others, and to help others overcome those challenges and those hurdles. Reading number 3, this is a very powerful reading, and I really want to honour the kinds of things. I haven't gone into detail because it doesn't feel appropriate within the context of a general reading, but I am actually very conscious of the level of some of the things that some of you have experienced, and the need both for isolation or the isolation that you experienced, that tower. But it's time for the tower to fall, to act upon your knowledge and your wisdom and your learning and those incredible skills. This is going to gather momentum. This is the bettering of any situation. This is going to flow into a new space. This is you flowing into a new space of healing and growth by using exactly these magical skills that you actually did develop to survive. We have the 2 of Pentacles, renewed energy. The 4, you have the ability to look back, to see things exactly as they are, but also to transform. Yeah, to navigate, I mean, literally to talk to nature, to talk to the earth. And there is such a celebration and an honour of you in this reading. There really is a real honour. Beautiful reading number 3. I feel this reading is coming to its close. Thank you so much for joining me. If this is I'm going to put loads of links, and I will put Sandra Ingerman's name just so that you can locate it in the information box and in the comments. Super Souls, if you'd like to get a notification of any of my readings as I post them, this is a spontaneous reading, but it was requested by many people. So do put in the comments your requests for readings, and you know, I will do them as and when the timing is feeling right. So if you subscribe and press the little bell icon, you should get anything that I post coming into your stream as soon as I do it. I post readings every Sunday for weekly guidance, and they are timeless readings. You can access them at any time. I'm building a timeless readings playlist. Anyone who's part of this wonderful community will already know that. So, but I'll put the link in there too, because it's full of readings that you can click on if you ever have a wobble. You know, my free library is there. It's a completely free resource full of kind of psychological, emotional information. You know, it's all there to help. You know, that site, that library is a completely free resource. It will always be free. There's a ton of stuff that I do that I put into the world. So wonderful reading number 3, people. Access anything and everything that you can to assist you, but you have amazing skills. For those of you, I want to say a big thank you to those of you who support me on Patreon. You know, thank you for that ongoing support, because it helps to fund the library. I am doing tutorials, learning to read, like supervision tutorials with reading cards and runes on Patreon for my Patreons, because they are just as a way of me giving a little bit of extra back to them too for that ongoing support. And they are on Vimeo as well, if you're wanting to check them out. If perhaps reading is part of your way of navigating and developing your heightened skills of intuition into some aspect of a calling. Super Souls, I am wishing you so much love, and your future self is really vibrantly honouring the pathway ahead and the calling that will come to you through your experiences. And yes, thank you also for those of you for giving back through the super thanks. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but I think it's quite interesting because there's something of that energy around you, because I think that's what happened. You had to jump all over the place to be able to, like, almost from one world to another in a split second in order to navigate. There's something of that energy, but it is now time to no longer be an island. Use your skills to learn to use those skills, as it were, so that they actually become the route to your absolute healing and a pathway to some aspect of a calling that will be, you know, really, really powerfully helpful, not only to you but to others. You know, really, really, you guys are amazing, because this is a phenomenal kind of, it's very, very deep, this reading, it really is. So I am sending you all the love in the world, and also really honouring your future self for just like holding that torch for you and saying, wow, you know, you just did this, you're amazing. I'm holding that light for you, and you can do this. I mean, literally, look at that wizard. This is almost like your future self, the wizard of your future self pointing to you. Oh, by the way, you can do this. You can do this, you know. We can talk to the trees, you know, we can do this. We can talk to the angels. We can do this stuff. Your intuition is so heightened. It's like, you know, we're cool. We can do this. We can pass through this sort of valley and come out the other side triumphant. It's beautiful, reading number 3. It really is. So much treasure, actually, that you can find through using those skills for you. Super souls, tons of love.